This is the regular board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Daniel Gayton.
How's everybody doing tonight? My name's Angie Marconi, taxpayer in the city. Want to talk to you guys a little bit about Mr. Wichard. I appreciate the comment from the attorney, but that's just not good enough and flies in the face of everything that we're talking about. Here you guys have a public school which is diverse, and this public school system was built for equality for everybody. And now all of a sudden we're starting to segregate people into whether the haves and the have-nots. You have a principal at the intermediate school talking about if you get free lunch or subsidized lunch, that all of a sudden it's a socialist program and their parents are lazy. Well, here you have one administrator that works for the school who went to the school, played football with a whole bunch of people who probably 80% of them kids on a football field got free or subsidized lunch, but it's okay to cheer for them on Friday, but it's not okay to hang out with them on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and all of a sudden they're socialists. You guys have somebody from the church here sitting on your board who gives out free shoes to the same person to the same people that these guys are talking about. But yet nobody says anything. It's all fine. It's all good. The attorney's had more than enough time to work on this case. All that is just kicking the can down the road and doing nothing. What are you guys going to do when you guys can't follow your own policies like you do now? And all of a sudden these kids start to question whether or not they should follow the policies in the school, whether they should follow the code of conduct, whether they should follow all that stuff. And they bring it right here to the board. And all of a sudden it's an appeal. What are you guys going to do when you tell them that they have to follow the same policy that your administrators don't have to follow? You can't be hypocrites and tell them that they have to. That's not fair to them. And then that leaves on the back of the teachers here in the school to deal with this chaos and nonsense. And you can't even give them a contract. That's what your attorney needs to be speaking about. It's time for you guys to stand up. It's time for you guys to say something. Silence means that you agree with what's going on. There's no other way around it. You can't hoopla and holler when everybody gives you something free out here in the community and they call it a socialist program in school. That's just hypocrite. That's hypocritical. It doesn't make sense. He's broken every single policy that a teacher could break, but yet we're going to sit here and kick this can down the road. Give the man an ultimatum. Retire by Friday or get fired by Friday. That's the only thing that works. Or these kids are going to start, or they're going to really start questioning why do they need to follow the code of conduct? If he doesn't need to follow it, why do they? And I can't wait for a parent to be strong enough. Couldn't be my kid that broke the code of conduct, because I'd be right here at the board saying, you can't do nothing to my kid. If he don't have to do it, they don't have to do it. And it's that simple. And it falls on the backs of them. And you can't even give them a contract. And they're the ones who are going to have to deal with the outcome while you guys stand up here on your porches and going, hey, we'll tell you what to do, but we ain't going to pay you. You deal with them kids.
Thank you, Mr. Gayton. Mr. Martel, Mr. Katzenstein's trying to get into the meeting and he's having some trouble. Can you give him can you check that out for me? Thank you. Our next speaker on the list is Mr. Gary Harvey.
Very simply, I would like to start by expressing my confusion with the attorney's statement. I fail to see how it's a personal matter and not a matter of public interest. So there's some confusion there. I think the necessity to foster a safe, welcoming, inclusive, diverse atmosphere in our school system has been long overlooked. We've placated, we've stuck with our traditional dogmatic thought processes and haven't created a safe environment for our young people. I would like to strongly encourage and urge this board to consider something to the effect of a equity and inclusion, a diversity committee made up by members of the faculty, members of the student body, as well as members of the community. In order to properly represent the individuals that you're serving, you have to take a piece of the pie from everybody, not just who thinks like you and agrees like you. But furthermore, I think that it's unacceptable at this time. And I had a lot of people tell me that I shouldn't say anything to this effect because I'm involved in city politics and the city stays out of the school and the school stays out of the city. And there's like this hush hush. And we have our teachers who don't have a fair contract. We have our teachers who are a direct representation of how our city views its future. When someone moves to the city, if they have kids, one of the first things that they're going to consider is, where are my kids going to school? What does that school look like? And we can't pay them. We can't treat them fairly. We don't give them what they deserve. Oh, hard work's going to be rewarded when it's convenient. When I asked to be put on the agenda, I received a phone call that afternoon from Mr. Rick Moore, and I appreciated that phone call. He said, hey, somebody said you wanted to talk to me. I said, no, I just wanted to be put on the agenda, but since I have you on the phone. And we talked about the teacher's contract, and the response was, we're working really hard to make that happen. Now, I grew up in this area, but the people that I know that are from Missouri, they're going to let you know they're from the show me state. And lip service isn't enough if we're truly going to do what's in the best interest of our kids. And if we're going to do what's in the best interest of our kids, then we need to do what's in the best interest of our teachers. Teachers that give up their personal time, not just on the clock time, personal time, to make sure that the students have a lesson that's prepared and able to be articulated well enough to reach each student that's in that class, because not everybody learns the same way. You can't get a fish to climb a tree. They'll fail that test. So those teachers have to adapt and adjust. We need to pay them and adapt and adjust and give them what they're worth.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Yes. I probably read it wrong. It's probably personnel.
Personnel.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that's a personnel matter, not a personal matter.
Yep. All right. Before we go to the next speaker, I need to make a statement about everybody wearing their masks appropriately. We are in a school in New York State, and you have to wear your mask while you're at the school. Next on our list to speak is Jessica Malone.
Hello. If you didn't know, some of our students bravely spoke out about their experiences at the protest. I'm here again because you were not. You're not hearing their stories. You didn't even listen to their voices. District policy says when these situations arise, even off of school grounds, that the perpetrator is in violation of the code of conduct. It sounds a lot less complicated than people are making it out to be. He's an employee, one that should be held to a higher sense of accountability. And when employees violate policies regarding conduct, that can be reason for dismissal. Students have complained about being harassed by teachers. I have heard of teachers being intimidated by administrators. Where does it end? No one is being heard. Instead, we're frustrated, some are fed up, and some see the retaliation that happens and decide not to speak up. The school and principal portrayed support for the protest, but one of the kids organizing it was taken out of class by the SRO in his uniform with his gun and escorted to speak with the school principal, who wanted to inform the student of the rules of the protest. In my opinion, it was to intimidate the student. He removed the student from instruction and treated them as if they were in custody. Who decided the SRO was needed instead of the PA system? At the very least, it was an improper use of the SRO that left his other duties unattended. Further comments were made that providing food security to children in schools causes their parents and families not to work. How many children are not going to eat a school breakfast or lunch and tragically go hungry because they heard those comments? It raises other questions I have as a parent. Does he judge my child's discipline based on their Medicaid or SNAP eligibility? What factors decide healthy family support that diverts a child from pins? Religion, income, gender identity? And these protections that we're asking for go for Christians as well as every other religion. There's a trend in this city. The more power you have, the less likely you are to be held accountable. Our kids learn this unspoken code here that bigger the title, the more you can get away with, or that rules don't apply. Let me be clear. I'm here for the children's best interests. Our students' complaints are being ignored. They are losing their dignity. They're being treated like they don't matter. Excuse me. Like they don't have a voice. You, our elected officials, have the authority to act. The school district policies, including the code of conduct, holds everyone accountable, not just students. We want answers and we aren't getting them from the superintendent. We've only gotten non-answers and no real assurances that he even understands the problem. This is not about a person or a religion or a man's freedoms. It's about what is best for our children. Dignity for all students, tolerance, respect. Those are more than words.
10
It's the law.
seconds.
Your district anti-harassment policy references it. Are we to believe that this pastor who publicly rejects things not in the government of God will check his personal beliefs at the door, that he
Thank
will,
you,
and
Jessica.
his job, do his job fairly and without prejudice?
Let's move on to the next.
I don't
speaker,
think
please.
so, and the students don't think so either.
Thank you. Next on our list of speakers is Ty Malone.
Good evening. First, I would like to address that First Amendment freedom of speech stuff. If they have the freedom of speech, does that go for the principal being able to call my kids whatever they would like? Because if he says the wrong thing to my children, that attorney is going to need more than that little statement. Freedom of speech, that don't go for hate, teaching our kids, telling them that they got problems because they have mental abilities and stuff. You guys need to address this. Now, you guys already heard most of the concerns of the parents here tonight, so I'm not going to go over them because I did have a lot that the same concerns as them. So I'm going to get to some other stuff because that stuff seems to be hard for you guys to be able to take care of. I would like you guys to address the process in which the community has to go through to speak at these meetings. There's no reason for us to have to register a week before speaking, nor explain what we want to speak about. Being that you guys were elected to the school board of all places, one would hope that you understand civics. To the person on the board that tried to disrespect my wife 2 weeks ago after I, who was the next speaker, gave her my time when she was exercising her right as a taxpayer and as a mother of students in the district, I hope you're happy. She is a lot more reserved than I. And because of time, here are a list of my concerns. You have a principal that's getting aggressive with teachers, even to the point of cornering the teacher because they would not bend to his will. And what does the board do? Not only show the abuser he can get away with it, has the teachers fighting for a contract that's way overdue. While the abuser enjoying his $139,000 salary, what kind of message does that send? Hard work will be rewarded? I don't think so. There's another principal who is out spewing hate in the community and has admittedly stated that him and others of his following have infiltrated our schools. I would like to take a second to recognize those kids that he was talking about. You know, the ones that eat free lunch or are Muslims or in the LGBTQ+. Those are the same kids that put them trophies in your hallways and them banners in your gym. Respect them. Part of the board's job is to keep the teachers and the students safe. Yet you guys have done nothing. Maybe the SRO officer should be there for the principals instead of the kids. We want to see minority administration positions. We want to see minorities in staff, teachers. That means you have to look outside of Olean. We want guidance counselors that care about our kids, not just a select few.
10 seconds.
There is no way to justify the percentage of minority kids that go without scholarships or even introduced to the programs like HEOP. We want our kids taught real history, not his story. That means Africana Studies curriculum.
Thank
a
you, Mr.
Native
Malone.
American curriculum.
Let's
We
give
should-
the next person a chance to speak.
We would like to see a diversity committee made of members of the community, teachers, students, and administration of the board.
Mr. Malone,
We want our teachers
that's the
to
end of
have
your
a
time, Mr.
contract
Malone.
that is long overdue. We want our board and our administrators to listen and work with us, or with the community and its teachers. Thank you.
Next on the list, we have Angie Marconi.
My name is Angie Marconi. I'm an Olean resident, an Olean taxpayer, and a graduate of Olean High School, classmate of Julio's, actually. I currently teach 7th grade math at Oleans, and I'm the OTA vice president. This year is my 11th year teaching in the district. I love teaching in Olean, I love teaching math, and I love teaching 12 and 13-year-old students. There's something special about teaching middle school. When students start 7th grade, most of them are shorter than me, or just as tall as me. And by the time they leave, most of them are taller than me. It's awesome to watch them mature, learn, and grow into young teens right before my eyes. I have worked hard throughout my 11 years to create a standards-based curriculum. I utilize various resources to create my curriculum, but it is all teacher created. I dig into state test data and modify my curriculum based on my students' performance. I spend time outside my contractual hours grading homework assignments. I even allow my students to revise their homework assignments so that they can learn from their mistakes and improve their grade, which makes more work for me because I have to grade things twice. I communicate regularly with families through email and Parent Square. I would not change a single thing I do because I feel that everything I do is in the best interest of my students. I am one of 200 plus teachers in the district who all go above and beyond for our students. We try to do all that we can to provide the best classrooms for the diverse population attending our schools. We all work hard. We all work outside our contractual hours. We all do extra things in our classrooms that create more work for ourselves. But we do all of this because we want to be the best teachers we can be for our students. We became teachers to make a difference in our students' lives so that they can become successful adults. Considering all that I described, it is disappointing that we stand here today entering our second school year working without a contract. Equally concerning our neighboring districts, school districts that have recently settled contracts. We ask that the board value our hard work and dedication by making us a priority. It is imperative the board focuses on reaching a fair agreement with us. We look forward to continuing this process and coming to a speedy resolution. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next on the list is Rachel Schreiber.
Say that again.
Rachel Schreiber.
I would like to start by thanking the board for your graciousness and allowing both Angie and me to speak tonight. We received your message earlier today asking one of us to forego our time tonight. So we would like to thank you for letting us keep our previously allotted times. For those of you in the audience who don't know me, I am Rachel Schreiber. I have taught second grade at Eastview for 21 years plus. I love my job because of my sweet students, their hardworking families, and my amazing colleagues. I am the current president of the OTA, and it is a complete pleasure to represent my colleagues because they are bar none, the absolute best, most dedicated, most resilient, big-hearted teachers in this area. I stand here tonight representing 200 plus teachers and staff who have been working without a contract for over 400 days. During those 400 days, we have endured ever-changing working conditions due to the pandemic. As educators, we have never seen a landscape such as this. Not once did we shy away from the challenges of virtual learning, hybrid learning, altering our curriculum and lessons to address the needs of all students, supporting the needs of our diverse student population and their health and safety. Our students' welfare, education, and safety are and continue to be our number one priority. We show up for our students, both in our classrooms and in our community. I have here with me hundreds of signatures from my members asking the district to respect and value us by negotiating a contract that is deserving of the valuable work we do. We are hopeful you will consider our request to put forth the time and effort it takes for the two parties to reach an agreement. We want a collaborative relationship with the district and its representatives that will help us reach our goal in having a fair contract as soon as possible. We are committed to this process and look forward to working together. If you have any questions about the hard work we do, I encourage you to come see us and talk to us in our buildings. We are proud of the work that we do every day. We are proud to serve the students of Olean. Thank you for your time.
Next up on our list of speakers is Timothy Sherlock.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak tonight. I hopefully won't take up too much of your time. This week, I did have a meeting with Mr. Wolf and Superintendent Moore, and it did go well. You know, I love the fact that we have open communication. But the problem we have here is our communication falls on deaf ears. I've been doing a lot of research lately, and I come to you usually very well informed because I get told often, I can't comment. I can't answer that. So let me remind the board, according to the National Board Association and the New York State Board Association, you are governed with three main responsibilities. One, to create, enforce, and correct policy. Two, to ensure contract and funding for the district, and to align the mission statement and the direction of the district where it's going. And when it is not going in that direction, you must correct it. We failed to do that terribly. We have a policy issue that came to light 3 years ago, not 3 months. In 3 years, you could not craft a policy? Again, I have no answer. So let me tell you this, I've run companies, I've run million-dollar companies. If one of my employees set me up for a PR disaster like this, I would have gone to my board and said, give it to me by Friday. I have no time frames, no assurances. If you cannot hold your teachers in your district accountable, why did you run for this position? I'll make it very clear to you and to these teachers. I support you, and I am running for the school board. Hold yourselves accountable.
Thank you. Leo Walters Tahara.
Hello, my name is Leo Walters Tahara. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a small business owner, and contrary to our first person who didn't have the courtesy to stay, I am in fact a Christian and a proud parent of a non-traditional family of students that go to Olean High School. We are not here to serve the best interest of those who already have their needs met. We are not here to stroke the egos of the privileged. We're here to make sure that everybody is treated with equity. On the Olean City School District website, the guiding district of the principals are stated as a commitment to fostering a respectful, safe, and welcoming environment, embracing diversity, continuous improvement, academic excellence, and lifelong learning. Furthermore, we're committed to honesty, integrity, responsibility, and accountability. I've seen none of that from the school board. I've seen none of that from the administration. And Shukaya, I saw a complete lack of disrespect for the speakers last week from you and from you as well, Mr. Padlow. It's unacceptable. You absolutely snubbed the speakers. You didn't care that they were speaking and you spoke over them. How are we supposed to trust that you are going to have we don't have any faith that you're going to do something for our students? I've taken a couple calls in the past weeks from Aaron Wolf and from Mr. Moore, and I'm happy to say that they think of me as someone who should be called, but I will be taking no more calls privately. We will be communicating publicly from now on because this is a public issue and I don't want my ego stroked. I want change to happen. The way that you stand up is you make a stance like the Olean Teachers Association did in a full page ad in the newspaper. They stand for our students and you won't pay them. They stand for our students and you won't let them speak at the meetings. Furthermore, it is not a personnel matter to address speech that is counterintuitive to the guiding principles of our school district. When hate speech comes up, you do this. This is how you ally. You say, we don't stand for hate speech. We don't stand for division, and we don't stand for the diminishing of human life of our students. The Olean teachers can get it right, and you won't pay them. You don't have to make any grandiose effort. Just simply say that was hurtful and wrong, and we can't even get an admission of that from you guys. That's unacceptable. The Olean City School District and the Olean City School Board has failed. Social scientist and attorney Joe Freeman wrote in 1973 that if institutions continue to keep power as diffuse as possible because it cannot demand responsibility from those who have it, it ensures that the organization will be as ineffective as possible. We've diffused the responsibility from the administrator in question. We've diffused the responsibility by, instead of making a public statement, making backdoor calls. It's time for the responsibility to be owned. And right now, you're saying a whole lot with your silence. Support our students, protect our students, and respect our teachers.
Thank you, everyone, for your thoughts and comments. We're now going to move on to the next portion of our agenda, communications and commendations. Mr. Moore, do we have any commendations?
No, we do not.
And no communications to speak of? Okay. Then I'm going
Oh,
to
I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Congratulations to the Olean High School senior Ruth Scordo for having been chosen to participate in the NISMA Conference All-State Mixed Chorus. And then also the board wanted to thank, we received from Mr. Bracy, who helped us out at the high school, a thank you letter, which I thought was very nice. So those are the two. I'm sorry, I had the old.
I understand.
All right.
I thought we covered that last time. All right, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Janine. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Hey, Ira's here. Okay.
got that 15-second delay.
All right, we're gonna move on to committee reports. We have a report for the technology committee.
Hey, everyone. So last week, we had the first meeting of the technology committee for the year. The main thrust of this year is going to be working on the technology plan for the district. Every district across the state has to resubmit a technology plan for 3 years. Last year was actually the year it was up for everyone, but because of the pandemic, they gave everyone a reprieve. So in this first meeting, we met for an hour last Thursday. We talked about the goals and reviewed the goals and what was put out in the previous plan so that we can create goals and what we're going to put into the new plan. What we determined was most of the goals, except for maybe 1 or 2 that were in the previous plan, we really have met. It was kind of funny that this tech plan was created before the whole pandemic hit, and a lot of the goals really spoke to what we needed during this pandemic: the one-to-one devices, connecting all the homes across the district to the internet, et cetera. So we were very prepared for, technology-wise for the pandemic. So we spent an hour going over those goals. Like I said, noted which ones that we still have to work on, which ones that we still have to start, and those will go into the next plan along with some new ideas. So, all right, any questions about that?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. Operations committee. Is Ira going to present that?
Sure. I assume you can hear me. We met on the 13th of October and had a very productive session. Many of the things we talked about are on the agenda this evening. Things like school calendar amendment that we endorsed. We also spoke about credit for physical education participation to be continued, public expression at our meetings policy, endorse the professional development plan, continue to refine the dashboard to incorporate COVID data, reviewed a few contracts, the Cattaraugus County contract, the YMCA extended day, and began a conversation with regard to social media policy. We will meet again on the 8th of November.
Thank you, Ira. Does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you. Now on to the superintendent's report.
Yep, thank you very much. Just real quick, we wanted to stress that last week we had a professional development session, and Jen Kless is just going to report on that real quick to us. We had Dr. Hunter return. Originally, he was brought to us by the Venturas, and he's done a very good job for us. He's from Buff State. So I'll let Jen.
Hello, everyone. On Friday, October 8th, we had our 4th staff development day in the district. We had various learning activities taking place. Some of them were about specially designed instruction, explicit instruction. We also had some meetings regarding our new phonics series and working with benchmark assessments and phonemic awareness. One portion of the day, though, was dedicated to having all of our teaching and professional staff together to hear a presenter, Dr. Javon Hunter. Originally, several years ago, the Venturas reached out asking if we could bring him into our district to start work with teachers on culturally relevant curriculum. We had plans set up for him to work with our high school teachers to do this work. And it would center around various high school departments working together to create a project, a long-term project where students would be able to determine what a problem is in our community and work to try to resolve it from their perspective and keeping curriculum relevant to them. We were set up to do that on March 6th, and then a week later, we were closed for the pandemic. So he was scheduled to come back this October 8th to start that work again. And we brought it down to the basis of starting with the culturally relevant and sustaining education framework that New York State released back in 2019. We had the professional staff hear a session from him about that framework. He explained the purpose of it. He explained how it's put together. And then we went into the framework to just review the portions that the guidelines that teachers can use in their classrooms and principals can use in their buildings to do the guidelines to have culturally relevant activities and community within their school and their classrooms. We also had him present to our support staff. And from the support staff perspective, he brought up the fact that they are usually the first point of contact and the last point of contact to students in our district, and how vital and important that was, and how much interactions with students and how important words are when interacting with them. The feedback from both sessions was positive, but it was also honest and stated, we have a lot of work to do with the framework and with working together to learn more about the culturally responsive framework. And for our next steps, we have a work group, several teachers back in the spring reached out to Jen Mahar and myself. I wanted to start talking about professional learning opportunities we could give our staff in diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as culturally relevant and sustaining guidelines and education for our buildings and our district. And so we're going to continue that work. And a suggestion was brought up with that work group about making a couple site visits to other schools that have frameworks already established in their district. One, they have spoken to an administrator in the district in Erie, Pennsylvania, and they would like to go visit that site. And so we're going to investigate a few places that we can go visit to see all of it in action. The handout I gave you earlier summarizes everything I just said. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Is there any,
Kelly.
is there any sort of programming they could do that would be like for families to come in and listen to something like this? Because right now, I mean, it's great to have these trainings for the teachers, but it would be really nice if we could bring in some sort of a programming like this for families. Because I mean, there's a lot of parents, I think, you know, when you go home, these kids are hearing things in the classroom, but maybe they're not hearing the same things at home. And it might be helpful if parents were in on this, because I think, you know, there might be a disconnect there. I don't know if families would be interested in coming in for some form of programming, but if we could include that, you know, it
I
would
think
certainly
that
be
would be a
helpful if
fantastic
we
idea.
knew, you know, at home what was happening in the schools also.
I think that's a fantastic idea to bring to our work group so that we can, of course, family and community engagement is very important with any of our work. So we will put that, I'll bring that to the work group. And again, I think this will be a topic of discussion at TABS tomorrow.
Yes.
So we can also connect there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
May I just make a comment too with both Jen and Mr. Moore? I mean, I feel like we are at a time right now where we have the stimulus funding available. So, you know, like now is the moment. So if we, I mean, I know that your work group is just starting up, but we have resources to support this kind of thing. So if your work group can come forward with concrete suggestions on how we can implement and traveling to other school districts, I mean, I don't know how other board members feel, but totally behind you on this. But our window of opportunity is short-lived. If we can do it this school year, we're going to have resources that we might not have 2 years from now.
Thank you. I do believe the work group and the administrators believe this is a journey, and we appreciate any support we can get, especially with the initial takeoff of this.
Thank you. Thank you. And then just, I want to follow up real quick with, I know this is, seems kind of interesting, but it is Board Appreciation Month. And one thing I'll say to you is this, is that democracy is not a pretty thing, but it's the best form of government we have. And I just want to thank all these administrators and also the Board of Education for working hard. The Board of Education, if you look, we have worked very, very hard at diversifying our Board of Education. We have worked very, very hard on a number of levels. They have knowledge and information that unfortunately they cannot always share with the public. So a lot of things that are said and tonight, there's more to those stories and they cannot speak to that. I just want to compliment them. They're always professional. It would be very easy for them to answer back to a lot of the statements, but we're not allowed to do that. With negotiations, we've had a lot of successful negotiations that have worked very, very well with support staff, with administrators, and we're also tied under legal requirements to what we could say about this negotiations, but we will continue to work very, very hard with the OTA. And I just want to thank the board. It's a very difficult job. They're very good people. They work very hard, and I just want to thank them. And I know that this has been a very, as if you read the newspapers and you watch the news, being on a Board of Education, wherever you are, is not a very easy thing at this point in time. But I just want to tell you, I have full confidence and I've never met people with more dignity and honesty, and they will get the job done. And sometimes it takes longer, but they will do that. So thank you very much. You didn't need to speak out right now, sir. You had your chance to speak. Thank you.
We're gonna move on to new business. If you're done with your report, Mr. Moore. Next is the Cattaraugus County High School Equivalency Instruction Services Math Reading Tutorial Services Contract. That's got quite a
Say that
name.
again real fast.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary.
Second.
So moved.
Jim. Any discussion? Looks like we're going in at the same rate as we did last year. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Next up is the Cattaraugus County After School and Summer Program for At-Risk Youth Contract.
So moved.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Mary. Any discussion?
Same rate.
Same rate. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, next up is the MOA with the OESPA concerning the holidays for
Moved.
Christmas and New Year. Thanks, Jim. I'm gonna give that one to Ira. I think he snuck it in there. Thank you, Ira. Any
You're
discussion?
welcome. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We have a donation to Walsh of some used technology equipment.
So moved.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Ty. Any discussion?
Yeah, it's always a pleasure that we can find somebody in our, as far as local schools, to utilize the equipment that we no longer need. So that's always a plus.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Now to accept a proposal from Futures Educational Services.
So moved.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Janine. Any discussion?
When is this gonna start?
Tuesday and Wednesday next week. They'll be here to do on-site reviews.
All right.
Special ed reviews.
Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? All right, now we're going to create a cleaner position.
Moved.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Mary. Any discussion? Yeah, this looks like it's a 3-year position funded by the ARP money that came from the federal government during the pandemic. So it'll be a 3-year position. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right, and then now we're going to create a maintenance worker position funded much the same way.
So moved.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Janine. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Andrew, yes, just,
Yep, go ahead, Ira.
did we address the teacher aide appointment? I'm experiencing jet lag or internet lag.
Not yet.
We're not there yet.
Not there yet.
Item F, we skipped over F.
Where am I?
Okay.
It's coming up.
It's coming up, Ira.
You know what? The agenda online is different from the agenda in front of us.
I think your agenda is a little bit different, Ira.
I'm following on the one online and he has.
I apologize.
Your 8 appointment.
At least you're on the right one, though. I was on the last month, so.
Yeah, we get those in the
Yeah,
personnel
don't feel bad.
section. We'll come back to them.
Yes, I know that. Okay, thank you.
So all those in favor for the maintenance worker position?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Now we're looking to approve the professional development plan. Thank you, Janine.
So moved.
Thank you, Ira. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Now we have an amendment to the school calendar. Just to adjust the marking period end date.
So moved.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Julio. This was also discussed in operations. It's just a minor tweak. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Now on to the YMCA MOU. We need to extend that or decide what to do with it.
I will motion to extend it to January 15th. I'll explain why in my discussion.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Do I have a second on that? Ty, thank you.
Reasoning behind is we had the holidays coming up. We kind of lost a little bit of mojo from the last time because we lost track of it. And this way it allows for the holidays to continue on, and perhaps we can have a demonstration as to what the YMCA can do. And then I figure with the January 15th end date, which is a Saturday, we will at least have one meeting in January by that time, because we got the 4th and 11th, I believe. And at least that way, we might be able to get some input from the Y.
We met with Barb, and I've talked with her a couple of times. They're hoping to get this done as quick as possible. They're still waiting from the state. Jenny and I have a meeting with her too, though, and Jenny's done a great job of adjusting the budget to make sure that, we're not overpaying, because originally there was supposed to be busing and other things in it. So we hear your plea that, we want to watch the funding of this and how we're doing it. And then we're going to have a meeting this week with Barb, Jenny and I. So I appreciate your patience. I know this is a tough one, but it's really good for our families.
Well, I'd like to see something on paper too by them, and like a proposal of what they plan on doing rather than getting back to you too. If that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, my feelings on this. Every other place in the country, I'm not saying don't have an after school. I'm saying it should be user fee-based. That is fundamentally, the parent should be responsible for this. And every month that we keep paying $9,000 a week, 40% of which is administrative overtime. We pay for 2.5 full-time positions at the Y to support a program that runs only during the school year for 3.5 hours a day. It's just an absurd amount of money that we're paying. And if we did it properly, that is, if we created an RFP and bid it out for anybody to bid on, for Montessori to bid on, for Hewitt to bid on, we wouldn't be paying $9,000 a week, because we would get other programs to underbid that, because it's a really high price for what we're getting. And we're not even cost sharing with parents. We're making it free for parents, many of whom receive childcare subsidies from other sources. So we've started doing this on a quote unquote emergency basis, because the Y didn't get its funding, and we just keep doing it month after month. So I think the way to handle this, we set an end date, we write to parents, and we say, and the Y does this, it's the Y's program. Our funding hasn't come. If you want to continue to have your kids get after school programming, you have to pay for it until our funding comes. That's not a ridiculous proposition. And think of all the other needs that we have right now. We're not even addressing the kind of learning loss issues that happened last year. We haven't even started any of our own after-school programs. We haven't even investigated them. I mean, I know the elephant in the room is the contract, but we got to deal with that. And then we've got to start to, we're running out of time. 2 years, 3 years, it's a small window. Unless we get stuff going, we're not going to address the learning loss issues that our kids face that year. We owe it to our kids not to take the easiest route, which is, hey, the Y's got a program in place, let's just write a check. We owe it to our kids to say, how are we going to use this stimulus money to meet the needs of the students who have just had a very tough last 18 months. And, I just don't like taking the easy way out. So I can run a program, finding funding sources other than the school, and the school should use its money for our needs and the programs that are going to address the problems that arose in the last 18 months.
So how many kids did we say are taking advantage of this now?
If I can,
Right around 200.
What was it?
Yeah, Ira wants to jump in.
Go ahead, Ira.
Yeah, Janine, I appreciate hearing again what was said at operations and the concerns. I know we agreed that the existing agreement goes for a period and it ends abruptly, unfortunately, the 20th of this month. Yes, there was not a plan, but this is about kids. This is not about bidding. This is about children and families and good programming. And we cannot pull the plug, and this smoke and mirrors, in my view, about the cost. Yes, we can devise plans, and I'm disappointed we don't have those plans. And I'm not sure January 15th is a good end date. And I certainly would want to see something that says in a motion, not later than whatever the agreed upon date is. But January 15th, in terms of children and families, means the program might start again at our expense after the holiday season, which doesn't make much sense. It would need to be most logically ended when recess begins. And that's all I can say. I certainly support the program. It's needed. And we're unfortunately in this pickle with New York State and contracting, which is a whole other conversation that took place. Thank you very much.
Just to bring up to date too, though, just so you know that Barb, I have asked Barb and talked with Dream It, Do It, and she's going to work with Dream It, Do It, and also the Boy Scouts. We have had that program in the past, so through Bona's. So they are working together, which is good, and Barb has reached out to them. But I know we're just in a inconvenient mess here, I guess, more than anything. But the good news is that we are servicing children, but it is, I can't disagree with Janine at all. It is a lot of money. Yes, it is.
I mean, it's a lot of money, when you're thinking about spending $9,000 a week. I'm trying to think, how many more kids can we reach than 200 kids? And what more can we be doing for those kids? It's just a lot of money for an after school program.
And one of the issues is we just can't, like every other business around the country right now, is finding the help. It's really, really difficult to find people that were willing to do that work. So
I would like to say that at any time that we go after a grant, we don't create the grant. That's our job. It's the state legislators, senators and assemblymen that go create this. So our hands are kind of tied. And unfortunately, when you go after a grant, there's this thing called unintended consequences. And a lot of times we have to front money up and wait. And that's part of the business that we're in.
But we're not.
But Jim, we're not the people who went out for this grant. The Y went out for this grant.
Well, I'm just saying,
They should
I'm
be
just
fronting the
generalizing.
money, not us.
And
But-
we're not
we
I mean,
didn't go
we're not
out
gonna get
to
paid back
Yeah,
the
this-
community saying this would be a free program.
it's
The
not like
Y
we're-
did.
This was a
putting the money
And then
stop.
they
there.
put it back on us to pay for it.
Right. So it's not like we're putting it out there, and then when they get the grant, we're gonna get reimbursed for that. We're just paying the money.
Right.
But the good news is this, we will have that for 5 years out. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of an investment if you look at it that way.
Actually, I was just
know
gonna use
it's
that word.
painful for us all, but it is doing good for our kids, so. And we'll continue to monitor, and like I said, we were speaking with Barb.
We need to know how good it is
Yeah.
for the kids. Like you're saying that, we heard it all out here today.
Yeah,
My
I-
kids go to the program and they don't do their homework after school.
Well, I mean, if we have 200 kids in there, I think that speaks something to the program. I mean,
my
I don't
kids-
think parents would put children in programs that,
Well, if it's free and you need to put your kids somewhere,
Yeah.
you probably would.
so isn't that great that we're providing
I
that?
know, but I'd like.
I
to
know it's
see-
expensive, but I think I agree with Iris. We want it to end. We want to get the grant money as soon as possible, but,
I know, it's just another thing though, that just
yeah,
is hanging out there.
it is.
Like we're tired of them hanging out there.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So, are we firm on this date?
No,
January?
so
It's a
we
part
would,
of return to normal.
yeah.
Well,
So Jim, can we amend that to say no later than?
sure.
And that would be very
January 15th?
helpful to us.
That way, as soon as it comes in, we can get rolling on somebody else
That's fine.
paying the money. If
And
that's okay.
it also gives parents time if we need to let them know that, like, at the state,
Yeah.
they'll have time to make adjustments.
That builds in a cushion too, and then there's no reason not to have what we need at that time.
Well, I don't want to be sitting here in January,
Well.
January 15th, and we're all just saying the same thing all over.
Well, they
again.
need to get
We've been-
motivated or.
We've been funding this now. This is the second, the third month that this has come up. And there is no end in sight. And a little simple math tells us that it's going to cost us, if we were to fund it through the end of the year, it's $360,000. If we fund it through January, it's $180,000. I have an awful lot of trouble continuing to fund this program, considering the other needs and issues that we face right now. I don't like the ending date in January. I would prefer to have it month by month. And then I thought we had discussed getting a report from the Y on exactly what is going on with this program, and I haven't heard anything.
Paul, we discussed at the last operations meeting, getting an
Okay.
update, and then we also asked if we could be provided with a couple different options of what it would cost if we were to partially pay for it and ask for parents to pay part, what the cost would be if the parents had to pay all of it. We've asked and we haven't received anything yet. I mean, I realize we just had our operations meeting, but I mean, I haven't seen anything yet. And as far as I know, it's not coming. I mean, but it has been asked for. So I don't feel comfortable continuing
feel
this, certainly not
comfortable
till
with
January 15th. I mean, we've asked for options and we haven't seen anything. I mean, what is the administrator
have the
over
option
there
of
doing that we're
Ending it
paying
now if we
for
want, but I don't
if
think
they
we want
can't
the
give it to us?
repercussions.
The kids coming first.
You know, we thought that COVID would be over by now too. I mean,
It's
These
a
things are
completely different
difficult.
Subject, Rick, it's totally different.
yeah, okay.
If somebody's running a business.
So do you
they can
want
certainly
us
provide
to, we can
with
end it now?
options. I want something in writing. What is it gonna cost to keep running this?
I
We've asked
I
for
wish I
it.
could tell you
Where
that it
is
would be, I'm not up in Albany. I can't tell you when the grant will be arrived.
You're not up in Albany, but the Y is down the street. Barb can certainly ask one of her employees to write up a list of what 3 options are of how else they can pay for this other than us continuing to pay for it. And if she can't, then we shouldn't continue to fund it.
Well, that's why we have an end date of January 15th or,
I would
and
prefer to.
I don't want to
I'd
screw
make
with
the
the
call
holidays.
myself, but I'm
I
not
would
allowed
prefer
to.
move it I'd rather see, I don't really want to push it out to January 15th or Jim,
Well,
It's not
we're
that,
not
it's
because
not
we're
that,
saying,
it's not that far away.
we're saying if it,
Well, we've got a board meeting on the 9th.
Of January?
Okay,
Make it the 10th then.
Julio?
can
Go
I,
ahead.
can I say something? I think, a lot of people are uncomfortable with this, and I think, pushing it one more month gives them enough time. I mean, it's been 3 months. They should have enough data to at least give us something. And then we should go from there. I mean, a month is better than January 15th. And I think if we did that, all of us could agree with that. And we definitely got to see something though. Like this is what I think the public is talking about as far as us just kicking the can down the road. We need to see something. You need to demand it or say, hey, look, either we see something or your funding's going to get cut off, period. That's it.
I mean, this isn't something we just started talking about. We've been talking about it, so I just can't understand why we're
Since
still
August.
here talking about it.
Okay, so Jim, how do you feel about changing the date to November 12th, which is a Friday, I believe, 13th? Let's call it the 13th.
13th. Okay, I'll amend that to the 13th.
November 13th?
Yep. And Mr. Moore, please tell the YMCA to show some motivation here, like now.
So
I mean,
I can't control, I cannot
if they so
control what the
choose not
state
to be motivated,
does.
then.
I'd like to tell you I could.
Okay, but again, we're not talking about the state. Like Kelly said, we're talking about what can the Y do to help?
And that's
finance
why
this?
Jenny and I are meeting with Barb this week, so,
Okay,
and we can
well,
have
that's good.
Barb
Then
come.
let's set it to the- Well,
Yeah.
hey, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from her. I
All right.
really would.
Yeah.
I mean,
We like to hear something
Nothing.
on paper too.
So Jim has that motion on the floor amended to November 15th. Ty had the second. We're good with that? Okay, I'm gonna call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we're gonna move on. Okay, on to personnel. I'll try to say that right. We have a cleaner resignation. Keys Hund. has
So moved.
resigned. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Janine. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? We have an appointment for the art department chair.
so moved.
We have.
Second.
Sorry, yes.
Oh, Kelly O'Brien, yes, there it
Sorry
is.
about that.
Mary and Paul, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? We have a teacher aide appointment for Haley Dunmeyer.
So moved.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Janine. All those in favor?
No, wait a minute.
Oh,
We
sorry,
haven't
sorry.
discussed
Any
it.
discussion?
Is this money coming out of the APR money as well? Seems like no?
No.
This is a replacement position then?
Paul, you've had kind of like lots of time to ask questions beforehand.
Yeah, these are positions that have not been filled previously.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, Jenny. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We have another teacher aide appointment for Bailey McCullough.
So moved.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Ty?
Second.
I got it in there.
Somebody.
Sorry. Any discussion on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? On to the keyboard specialist appointment of Devon Winters. Or
So
Devin
moved.
Winters. Mary? Thank you, Janine. Any discussion here? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Then we have interim assistant principal appointment, the continuation of the appointment for Mr. Chuck Bauer.
We don't have an ending date.
So moved.
It's because it's interim.
Thank you, Ira.
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion?
Is this,
There's no ending date here.
It's interim.
There's no ending date, and I thought one of the reasons why we only approved it for a certain time period last time was because, so how did we get this gentleman, Mr. Bauer? And he's not on our list of approved people. We approve these lists at the beginning of the year, every year, for, people to fill in for these, administrative positions. We've now chosen 2 people that weren't on the list. I don't know why I'm approving a list, because we're not following the list. And I just, how do we get him? Like, how did he just appear? Like, who? I don't get it. I mean, I don't know.
I think we would have to go into executive session about that.
I would move then to table this resolution.
So are we not, I guess what I would need to know is, do I
Pending,
need to go out and find a new
Discussion
assistant
in
principal?
Executive session.
Why don't we table it for executive session and discuss it there?
We can move on it once we come out.
Okay.
So Paul making a motion to table it till later in the agenda. I guess we don't really need to if it's on the agenda already,
Yeah.
right? All right, so we'll just move that to after executive session. All right, so we'll move on to discussion items for now. We're gonna have our first reading of the revised public expression policy. Does anybody have a copy of that? Or does
I
anybody
tried to find one
want to read it?
online.
It was attached
in
to
your
the
packet.
agenda.
Yeah.
I have it.
You have it?
I have it on my phone.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and read it? Thank you.
If I can see it. So it will read, all meetings of the board shall be conducted in public, and the public has the right to attend all such meetings. Public expression at meetings shall be encouraged, and a specific portion of the agenda shall provide for this privilege of the floor. Am I reading and saying what has been taken out of this also? or am I
No, just
reading it
read
as it reads?
the new one as it reads.
This policy is not intended to violate public expression, but to ensure that the board meets its need to conduct its business efficiently and effectively. Contact the district clerk no later than noon on Wednesday prior to each meeting to request to speak during the public comment portion. Upon receiving the request, the superintendent, board president, and vice president shall determine the merit of the item and topic as it pertains to the work of the board. The president, at his or her discretion, at their discretion, can forego this requirement if deemed necessary prior to a board meeting. Before the public is invited to speak, the board president shall read a statement that defines what is appropriate for public comment and the time constraints. The statement shall include but not be limited to the following items that are not permitted. 1, the use of an individual staff member's name. 2, comments that involve personalities. 3, the performance or conduct of an individual staff member. 4, specific and/or confidential student-related issues. Board members may not respond or engage in debate regarding a public comment. Situations requiring further board action will be referred to the superintendent, board president, and/or board committee. Public participation shall be limited in time to a total of 15 minutes unless the board, by a majority vote of its members, permits participation to continue for not more than one additional 15-minute period. Once recognized by the chairman of the meeting, no individual shall address the board for longer than 3 minutes. Complaints regarding any facet of the school operation often can be handled more satisfactorily by the administrative officer in charge of the unit closest to the source of that complaint. Complaints should initially be made or referred to the building principal and their assistant if the matter cannot be resolved by the teacher, coach, or other school employee. Please refer to policy number 3230. That's all.
So I think it's important to know that we were in the process of revising this public expression committee. We've been trying to do this for a while now. I think it's also important to note that the board does not have to allow any public comment. It's not a requirement. It's a privilege that the board offers the community and the other members to speak to us. Our job, as Mr. Sherlock pointed out, is we do the business of the board in school and what needs to be done. So, you know, this is a privilege and this is the policy that we are looking at adopting with some minor changes.
All right.
This is substantially the same policy, right? What are the differences? I guess I didn't catch them.
Mainly, when we went in and started discussing this in operations, I think the intent was actually to try to lessen the restrictions on public comment, at least when I brought it up initially. That didn't go over as well in the operations meetings to lessen the restraints. So rather than making it less limited, we cleared up the language because when I was reading it, when I wanted to request to be on public comment last year, I found the language to be confusing. You know, there was wording in there like, preferably you may request. To me, that means you don't have to. You could just show up here and start talking. And that wasn't the way we had operated. We wouldn't do that, you know, if somebody just showed up. So to me, when I asked that we start looking into the policy, it was more to make it more clear that, no, you can't just show up. You know, my intent was to make it so you could just show up, but that was vetoed. So that's where we ended up with just clearing up, making it a more concise policy. So it's, you know, there's not as much wishy-washy language, if you will, in it.
My only concern is, what about that time frame? I mean, like the Wednesday before the next meeting, that's a lot of time. If we can't comment on what they are saying, what's the point in having that much time?
Well, we, Julio, the president and the vice president meet on Wednesday afternoon to go over the agenda for Tuesday's board meeting. And
Okay.
It's it out on Friday. So it's when we sit down to go over what we're gonna, you know, what this is gonna look like, because there's a lot of work that goes into these board meetings and all the preparation that's done. So by noon on Wednesday, I mean, that's not to say that we won't allow you to, but at least it gives us an idea of what are we looking at as far as public comment. And, you know, it gives us an opportunity to, you know, see what it looks like we're gonna have to extend it, or, you know, what do we need to do and prepare. Because if you're a board member and you've been elected, you want to prepare for the board meeting so that you know what's happening. So by Wednesday at noon, then the president and vice president meets at like 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. Then Vicky has the time to get it prepared, to put it out there by Friday, so that you know, we can then look it over and you know, make sure that if we have any questions or anything like that prior to the meeting for Tuesday night. So there's a time frame, and that's the reasoning behind Wednesday. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's also restrictions on, you know, with open meetings law, we have to get, it has to be out publicly. So that's part of it also. But I thought Mary did a pretty good job of explaining it.
If I can, this is Ira. This is the first reading of the policy. I think we in operations ought to take these comments by you all into account and discuss it at our next meeting, and then come back with any revisions at another board meeting in a couple of weeks.
I think, I'm sorry, I think the public comment, I mean, I think the people come to us to speak to things that are falling short, that don't necessarily get to reach us. So I think it is important for the public comment section to happen. And sometimes those things pop up after the Wednesday. So how does one go about doing that?
So again, that's what so we've got that kind of in there that, that, you know, if it did come up and they got a hold of us, you know, the president and the vice president could decide, yes, we'd like to put that, we'd like to have them come and talk. That's important. And we'd like to hear from them. You know, if a teacher wanted to come and tell us some great things that they're doing and they missed the noon, you know, on Wednesday, we could do that. But we have to have a starting point. We have to have a time so that at least we have an idea of what we're looking at as far as the public comment portion.
You said something about being prepared. Actually, I believe here on the board, we should stay prepared, meeting with the public, whatever we have to say. Is that still way that we listen to them and we move forward? And then, you know, going into our executive board meeting to do what we have to do. But I'm agreeing to Julio as well. You know, I would like to see if we could, 3 minutes, you cannot really get your point across in 3 minutes, maybe extending it to like 5 minutes, since without the public, there's no us.
So
No, I think what we're saying is we do want to hear from the public, and that's why we're trying to make this policy so that, you know, we still have to go through our meetings. So we've got 8. So for example, last time we had 10 people signed up, and this time we had 8 people signed up. So, I mean, we're talking, you know, an hour's worth of public comment, you know, which is not unreasonable. But yeah, I think certainly these things could be kicked back to operations. We can take a look at this policy again. And
I think too that, you know, the strict 3-minute limit, I mean, sometimes we need to have that if we have 10 or 12 people that want to speak, right? But most of the time, we only have a couple of people at most who want to address the board, and they can easily, you know, make their comments within the 15-minute time period that we've allotted. And we don't necessarily in those situations need to limit somebody's comments to 3 minutes. Like, and in many cases we have, like last year, there were people who talked for more than 3 minutes. I think that if we keep the 15-minute window expandable to half an hour, and we basically, but then we have some flexibility in terms of how long any one person comment. And one of the things that bothered me last time was there was a woman speaking and the next speaker offered to yield his time. And, you know, it's like, well, what difference does it make to us whether one person speaks for 6 minutes and the other person who was planning to speak for 3 minutes doesn't speak and doesn't take any more of our time for that to happen. So be a little more flexible on the 3-minute rule within the contours of not spend. I mean, you can't spend 2 hours a night. You know, I mean, there's limits to how much time we can devote to listening to public comments. But I think we could build in some more flexibility.
Well, it used to be where after a set time period, you have your papers with you, the papers documents were gathered, and they would be part of the process. And the whole idea of 3 minutes is for not just convenience, but if you have a lot of people. However, there's 2 things I would like to comment on. There's a difference between public comment and when we have our teachers here and they want to say something as far as their class or something like that, I would recommend that we go public comment versus an actual presentation, because that is not public comment. That is teachers presenting something.
We did bring that up at the operations committee meeting, that part of request, you know, when people do go to Vicky and say, we'd like to be placed on public comment, that if it's something that is more of a presentation,
Right.
that it be put on as a presentation. Like, for instance, last year, Kelly Andriano came and spoke, and it was placed in public comment. It was a presentation we needed to see and needed to hear, but it did go over the 3 minutes, and we allowed for that last year and that, but it really should have been a presentation because that's what it was. Similarly, I think that when Rachel speaks and she's giving the commendations about what the OTA is doing, I don't think that should be placed in public comment. I think she should have a space every single week that we have a meeting where she's able to give a presentation about what's going on.
Yeah, and that would probably be a community.
I mean, I don't think we should be limiting those things to 3 minutes.
No, we
because-
don't have to. But a presentation is a presentation. It's not public comment, and that
Right.
should
So
be.
we've got discussion items, if we're talking about that, we're gonna have a district.
Or
website
communications.
Presentation
Yeah,
or.
communications
or
accommodations.
Yeah. Or discussion items, yeah, either one.
Yeah, whatever, but not.
Wherever,
maybe not
whatever,
there.
whatever category it fits in. And outside of that, you know, the point I was trying to make. And because of the last two meetings, of which, shall we say, have been challenging, I would like to see something in there about any violations of public comment where the district suspends it, or it has to be addressed, because we can't have grown adults. We had students here and kids, because people bring their kids, throwing out F-bombs and B and this and that and the other thing. And we can't have people being disruptive in behavior. And we do have a 3-minute rule for a reason. And if you choose not to honor it, I mean, the last thing I want to see is people coming down from the Common Council to here, and they have an agenda normally, or which requires a game plan, and we have people pushing the envelope, as it were. And that should not have to be. I mean, we want to hear you, and we do, but we're not going to have it create an atmosphere of disruption and poor behavior. And keep in mind, normally there's kids here and there's teenagers, and you lead by example, and we do, and we try as hard as we do for the paycheck that we get, which is zero. But
So, okay, well, then we've got.
and I would recommend that we.
Again, these are all really good.
Thanks, Ira. Yeah. I
We'll
think
take
we've
them
got a
all up in
good discussion.
operations
We've
and
got a
get
lot
back
to
at
take
you.
back to the
We're
meeting.
probably like 10 on my list.
We can segue into a presentation.
Just a couple of comments. The OTA has, as part of their contract, they have the right to speak at any of our board meetings. And I think that is outside of the realm of public comment normally. So we should keep that in mind. And also,
I would recommend, Paul, that be looked at on an individual basis, because otherwise that can get very
well, we
abused
can't
very
look at
quickly.
it, if it's a contractual right that they have, Jim, we can't look at it on an individual basis and decide whether
No,
we're going to
you-
approve it 1 month and not approve.
That
it
does
another.
not mean unlimited
It's there.
time and the microphone, Paul.
Pardon me?
That does not mean unlimited time on the microphone.
I believe, Paul, there is a rich history.
Well,
I'll just say that.
the second comment that I wanted to make was we no longer have a parliamentarian on the board, but in any parliamentary procedure that I'm familiar with, a speaker has the right to yield his or her time to someone else. And I think we should keep that in mind, since we are governed by parliamentary procedure.
And that would be optional to the president running the meeting.
I don't think it's an option according to parliamentary procedure. You know, we are supposedly governed by the rules of parliamentary procedure. So I think we should either acknowledge that we are going to follow parliamentary procedure or not.
Well, technically we haven't, but it's discretionary to the president running the meeting.
We have a policy about that.
Nothing, one more thing to look into.
Yep.
Are we getting all this?
All right. So I think that's probably some good discussion to send back to the
There you
operations
go.
committee.
Can't wait for the
Our
second.
officers are charged with parliamentary procedure.
Okay.
I didn't
Our
understand.
officers are charged with parliamentary procedure.
Did you say something about
I couldn't.
policy?
I think there's a policy, yeah. We can look it up.
We'll look into all
Yes.
that. And we'll get back to you.
Okay, can't wait.
All right, I think we're ready to move on
We are?
to the district website presentation by Mr. Martel and Mr. Lasky.
And just real quick, I want to thank these people. This is one of the board charged us with was to update and upgrade our website, and they have done that. I also want to mention, I mentioned before, Mr. Myers, our librarian, did a fantastic job creating with a drone a flyover of our district. So it's been a team effort, and I really appreciate it. Tonight, we just want to walk you through it a little bit. Thank you, Dave.
Dave Lasky, 31 years in the district, my 31st year, 20 years taking care of this website.
Thank you, Dave.
So it's been a long time, and so this has been sort of my baby from the beginning and working on it. And when Mr. Martel and Mr. Moore said that we need to do an update, I said, thank God we needed to. So one thing that we needed when we were looking at this, first of all, we wanted the ability to put a video on here. So we did get the ability, and it is up on the screen right now. We did have the ability to put on create the video. Mr. Myers, who's our high school librarian, went out and did the drone work and put it together, and then did the overlay of the logos from each of the different buildings. On the overlay, we can see our sports field, so we can see our building. When we get the new building project done, we can update that section also, so we can see our next turf fields there. So there'll be a nice thing.
Yes.
We can work on that video again as we're going on. If you scroll down the page a little bit, a couple other things we want to look at is inclusion of our Twitter and our Parent Square. We'll get that on another page, but right here you can see Parent Square is put into the web page. So if we put something out on Parent Square, we have the ability to send it to the web page. We don't have to share everything, but something that is public, important to the public, we can put on here as well as sending it to our parents, students, and staff. So that's the reason why the Parent Square, and that is on all of the pages. It's on the high school, middle school, or Williams, Washington West, Eastview. It's all on the same page, so we can get that out there. Scrolling down a little farther, we had some issues with everybody wanted everything on the front page of the website. Oh, can you put that on the front page? Well, we need this on the front page. We need this on the front page. So we have this section in here where you can add additional things on tabs, so you can tab through them. So we have the upcoming events, the mission vision. I put the newsletter right smack out here on the front page. And it's on every home page. So you can go on to the newsletter, see the current newsletter. Even if you don't get it at home, it's out there. So everybody in the community, everybody in the world can see what great things Olean schools are doing. And so that's why we have it out there. Can we just go to Washington West page? At the top, we have our schools. And we'll go to Washington West, for example. One thing that both of the principals at the elementaries wanted to do is use that picture section that we have there as pictures, but also put advertisements out. Sorry, I thought it was Washington West. Eastview has it. Let's switch to Eastview for a quick second. So Eastview chose to put an advertisement. So here's their mask and social distance information right off the bat. The next slide over is their PTO meeting dates. So they have advertisements out here, and then we can put pictures in the stroller also to take care of it. On the right, we have the shortcut section. And so you can get to certain things. We have the calendar, staff can get to email this through and registrations out there. ClassLink is our program that we use for students that remember students' pathways for many of our sites, so kids don't have to remember them all. They can go out there and log in and get to their stuff. I had a request just today to put the student portal out there on the high school page so students can get to their grades and see their grades instead of using the parent portal. But we also have Parent Square, and then after a second or two, the Eastview Twitter feed will show up also. And we have Twitter for Eastview and for Washington West and for the high school on that page. Middle school doesn't have Twitter account, so they don't have that on. So we've done a lot of different things. If you find something that you say, we need to do something else, change things around, the bell schedule's on every page to get to it. So if you think of something that you would like to see, just let me know. Anybody in the staff find something you need on the page, let me know, and we can work on it. We can figure out how to make it the most user-friendly and the best that we can do to get people to use it. There's another feature on there, which only it doesn't matter, but if you go up to translate at the top, you can translate our webpage into any, there's like 23 languages that show up in there. And I don't know why it's not coming up, but there should be a bunch of languages at home. There are 23 different languages or something like that. You can click on and go to Spanish, to French, go to whatever you need, and they'll translate that page for them to get to that area. So maybe have any questions? They did real quickly, but I know you guys want to go home. I think the rest of us want to go home too. So,
So it took you more than a day to put this together, right?
Yeah.
So it took you more than a day to put this together, right?
Actually, the template is already created, so we had two people from Erie Lombosi's and myself and Mike Martel, and the four of us were together one day, and it took us, we started about 8:30 in the morning. I had a lot of pre-work done on it. It took me a couple days to get the pre-work completely set up, but we got done from 8:30 till about 12:30 in the afternoon when we were done.
Wow, 3 days.
So half day,
Nice.
we took all the old data, moved it over, and reorganized it all. So
Dave, is it accessible for visually impaired people? And do we have a?
So for the accessibility purposes, we look at, it is good for screen readers, so that's no problem there. Every image that's on the web has an alt tag so that the screen reader can read what that image is. We do check it for contrast, so that the contrasting of text and the background colors are enough for visually impaired. You'll notice that the icons are red, but the words are black. We had them red originally, and it didn't pass the accessibility checker. So we had to change those to black so the contrast was good enough. We do have a service that we subscribe to that I get a report every 5 days that tries to tell me where the accessibility areas are and how to, and what we have to fix them. It's a lot. And so, you know, being a part-time thing that we do, teaching's first, working on helping teachers and students with their technology is second, webpage comes up third in getting things accomplished when it comes to that type of checking and making sure there's. So.
Dave, do you know how long it took Mr. Myers to do the drone? Was that anything a long
It
time?
took him quite a while to do that because he was learning the software also while he was
Right.
doing it. So the overlays were really challenging for him to get that to go through there. The drone footage he knew how to do. He's doing good at editing drone footage. But it's the overlays and stitching it together and making sure it was the right length of time and all that sort of stuff. It took him quite a while to get it done. He started that this summer and he finished it. I forgot when we did this, but just about a week before we're ready to go with this. So.
Dave, I have a question. This looks great. I appreciate all the work that you guys put onto it. But I do know that there are a lot of families in this district who will access the internet via a very small screen. And I want to know, does this adapt to the small screen?
It is adaptable. If you look at it on a cell phone, it changes the orientation so the picture goes across and then the menus are underneath it and all that text goes underneath. So it makes it a longer page, but it is responsive web design.
Okay, that was the word I was looking for.
Yes,
Yeah.
responsive web design. That's the other class I teach in the mornings. I teach JCC web design. So I do that and JCC intro to computer science. So those are the 2 morning classes. So.
Nice job.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you, Dave.
It's really nice. Thank you very much.
And Mike, thank you. Okay, we have got informational items. Everybody take a look at those dates. Does anything look out of whack or anything? It's kosher to me for now.
Kosher?
Looks good.
Okay.
Yes, this Thursday at 4. Oh, sure. Yeah, these are mostly the November meetings. I think Vicky put the October ones on the last. I got a couple shots today. Okay, any
And
other
the
questions?
tabs meeting is,
Tab's meeting is tomorrow at 3:30 in the library at the high school.
and in November?
Whatever the third Wednesday of November is, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
Hold
Good.
on, I'll look it up for
probably
you.
the 17th.
November 17th.
Right, okay. Just, we talked about it last time, putting it on this list, so there you go. Thank you.
Mr. Moore, we have need for executive session.
We do. We have a personnel matter and we may be taking action afterwards. Mr. Bauer.
All right, I'm looking for a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Julio.
We'll go over, you guys, Ira and Julio, make sure you switch over to the other Zoom. I'll have that open in about 5 minutes.
What are we going on executive
Mr. Moore.
session for?
Are we bringing anybody in?
Yes, I need Mr. Wolf and I need Jenny Bellata.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is 8:14.